In my opinion, some cars in iRacing are just really difficult to drive on entry-level wheels, like trying to eat soup with a fork. It's possible, but it's going to be hard work. iRacing doesn't let you try cars before you buy outside of maintenance windows, so I've swapped my CSL-DD out for my old G29 for a little bit so I can explore the cars I already know well and give my view on which of them are still good to drive with a starter wheel, such as the Logitech G29 seen and driven throughout this video. These are the cars that I think penalise weaker wheels the least, but are popular enough that you can still join in the fun in some of the best racing that iRacing can give. First up is iRacing's Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, which, despite looking feisty, is one of the more cooperative and predictable GT3 cars of the bunch. With this car you can take part in the D-Class Ferrari Fix Series, the B-Class Fanatec GT3 Challenge, the B-Class VRS Series, and the B-Class IMSA Series. This makes the Ferrari one of the best utility cars of all. If you get comfy with this thing, then you can have a variety of series to jump into. Currently the fixed setup enforced in the Ferrari Fixing Fanatec GT3 series is pretty stable, if not the fastest that the Ferrari can be, but all this combines to make the Ferrari GT3 a great companion for those with low level hardware. Given the Ferrari's popularity, range of applicable series you can use it in, and its relatively high speed, this car's place in the fast but friendly 5 was assured. Next are the touring cars, and I reference the whole class because out of the triple-headed roster of front-wheel drive touring cars currently available, any one of the Honda, Hyundai or Audi touring cars is as good a choice as the other for forgiving but frenetic racing. The Audi is easier to launch from a standing start and is a bit more ponderous in the way it handles, which is good for low power wheelbases, so if you don't have a favourite then opt for the RS3. Due to the front wheel drive powertrain, these cars offer you a higher chance to reliably finish your race every time if you maintain restraint. Even if you get things badly wrong, your punishment is usually just a little bit of lost time or an off track, and rarely fatal. Although it's much weaker on my G29, I could still kinda tell when the front tyres were breaking traction and I could react to it. With eligibility for the Class D Touring Car Challenge and the Class C IMSA Pilot Challenge, you'll have a good spread of racing available with one car purchase. The only question you'll be left with is whether front wheel drive is really your cup of tea. Third is the Dallara P217 LMP2. Despite being ferociously quick and nimble, I found the LMP2 to be easier than expected on my G29, even with the fixed sprint setup used in the Ricmatech LMP2 series. The powerful yet kind of wispy engine is not so strong that it easily overpowers the rear tyres unless you're silly with a throttle, and the high downforce makes this car quite predictable travelling at speed, making it less about feeling the subtle cues that are lost on lower end wheels and more about relying on your reactions and accuracy to get through the lap. So long as you get the hang of relaxing the brakes when the speed drops and the downforce fades, and you're smooth on the throttle, you should find yourself getting cozy with this wonderful car. Even so, the LMP2 does feel a bit numb to steer on a G29, as if you're just steering a screen instead of steering a car. But generally it's completely drivable, fun and fast so long as you take extra care to be smooth in the slow bits. With the ability to use the LMP2 in the Class B IMSA, Class A European Sprint Series and Class B Ricmatech LMP2 Series, you get a wide choice of schedules and tracks to choose from on any given race week. Fourth in my list is the Radical SR8, iRacing's special little secret, brilliant car which is one of the most communicative feedback experiences for the driver. Even on low end wheels, the Radical is livelier than average. Because of its low weight and high downforce, every bit of speed you gain in the Radical feels like it pushes the car into the track twice over, meaning the fun correlates directly with how fast you're going. I found it fairly easy to engage with the Radical's frantic ways with the G29, and although the excitement factor is much lower without the bombardment of knocks, bumps and cambers I'd normally feel through my CSL-DD, the important thing was that it was roughly drivable and I could see myself getting used to it. You'll have to be on the ball to catch the car if you're too rough for the power in the slow stuff, but you can definitely have a great time nonetheless. Just remember to enlist the help of Auto Blip. It simplifies the Radical greatly so that you can concentrate on just driving. The C-Class Radical series is the only one you can use the Radical with, and sometimes numbers can be low, but there is a community dedicated to this car with its own Discord and broadcasted high strength grid race. The Radical is loved by all whose heart it touches. Last on my list is the Porsche 992 Cup. Yeah, I'm as surprised as you are. When I jumped into a practice session with this thing, on Mount Panorama no less, I'd completely assumed that I would be writing this into the dishonourable pile. Instead, I drove out the pits and did 5 fresh-faced laps straight out the gate until I pulled into the pits again with a changed mind. Yes, this is a difficult-ish car to drive due to its lack of electronic aids and unforgiving dynamics, but it's much more balanced and reasonable than its predecessor, and it's difficult for everyone, regardless of what hardware you're using. So if you were scared away by the brutal 991 Cup from long ago and haven't been back since, try again and you'll find the 992 to make a lot more sense overall. Both the fixed and open setup series are C-Class and run opposite each other, giving you a race as often as every hour if you dabble in both pots. So these are some of the cars that I think are on the closer end in terms of difficulty or drivability to what they are with my usual CSL DD. And by that I'm saying that they are certainly workable if you're smooth and focused and represent good choices for racing on low power wheels in fast paced series. That's not to say it's much fun though. Yes, I was able to get into a groove and feel somewhat familiar in them and do races, but I have to admit I felt like the life and soul was stripped from the cars I've listed, and the lack of vibrant feedback itself can make you drift out of concentration. The cars I've listed are great for getting your foot in the door for some of the best and fastest series on iRacing and deciding if you really do like this sim racing stuff after all. But you will have a much more exciting time when you do eventually upgrade. I love my G29, this isn't me dunking on it, but progress is leaving the original lower power wheels behind more and more every year, and it's important to point people to the cars that can still be used with them. That's the list as I see it. I don't need to tell you. Comment with your own thoughts if you agree or disagree and have more to add. It's good for other folks to see what the rest of you think. And for the first time, thanks to all my Patreons.